Right. Hello and welcome to Facts First PH's research briefing today, our ninth and happening every Friday, 10 a.m. I'm your host today, Jello Gonzalez. We are live now on the Facebook pages of Rappler, Move PH, Newsbreak, as well as on the pages of several other partners of the Facts First PH Coalition. So ano ba tong Facts First PH na to? Facts First PH is a coalition of more than 100 media and civil society groups coming together and taking a stand to protect the facts and move towards a healthier and safer public space online. So the coalition is composed of several operational layers, all working towards that goal. This weekly research briefing is part of the research layer wherein research groups conduct an analysis of the data generated through this effort to gain insights on narratives and networks aimed at manipulating the public ahead of the elections. Our study today focuses on the intersection between showbiz and politics in the time of social media. So there's a long history of the two being interconnected, but today's study focuses specifically on how fans have become more vocal and demanding a political stance from celebrities who often command great influence in social media and are thus not merely entertainers but key players in the political landscape. It also takes a look at the factors in recent years that have led to greater political participation amongst fandoms, how these fandoms can harness their passion for better online discourse and fight against disinformation as well, and how politicians nowadays can build their own myth and fashion themselves as celebrities. Our study is called The Passion of Fans, how fandom practices can encourage more active participation and help fight disinformation. Presenting the study are Cherish Eileen Brilon and Gerard Martin Suarez. So Cherish or Iris is an associate professor at the UP Diliman College of Mass Communication, Broadcast Communication Department. She is also part of DZUP 1602, the official radio station of the UP community, where she is the committee head for research and online programming. Her research interests include political economy of media, gender, fandom, cultural memory, and superheroes. So Gerard is a PhD media studies student at the College of Mass Communication at UP Diliman. His research on media topics is anchored on the elites, propaganda, and civic participation. He also works as a researcher for the Center for Local and Regional Governance, focusing on topics related to Philippine LGUs. Okay, so I will now turn you over, guys, to our researchers today. So Prof and Gerard, take the stage.
Good morning, Jello, and good
Morning.
morning, everyone. I hope my audio is clear. So once again, thank you to Facts First PH now for making us a partner in this endeavor and also for providing us a platform now to share our study today. So I'm Cherish Eileen Brillion, and I have with me my partner who is a PhD in media studies student, now si Gerard. So today we'll share some insights about our study entitled The Passion of Fans. So how fandom practices can encourage more active participation and help fight disinformation. Now, this is actually a series of articles now on which traces fandom and how it has become an important part of our political landscape today. Now, so we'll start with talking about, so this is the structure of our discussion for today. Now. We'll start with how fans have turned to social media to demand and criticize celebrities for not speaking up on very important issues now and what it costs them in terms of how they were perceived by the online community. Then we proceed to talk about how fandom behavior and practices have become synonymous with the behavior of the supporters of politicians and public officials. And then we segue into how fandom can actually complement our fight against disinformation. Okay, so ito po yung magiging structure ng aming discussion for today. By the way, when we talk about fandom, we're basically talking about the social and cultural practices that are created and applied by the fans, or those whom we call the most engaged consumers of media. So we're basically talking about generally how people who are fans of celebrities have transformed that passion into something else. No? So there are several reasons why we decided to look at the fans for this study. Siyempre, pinakauna doon ay dahil fans kami, no? At I think generally, fans tayong lahat, no? Ng celebrities, ng pelikula, ng sports team, ng mga musikero, mga banda, no? And it's interesting for us to look at them in a different light, no? And also because usually, when we talk about fans, they are not something that you would normally associate with politics, no, and citizen participation. Kumbaga nandun lang sila sa domain ng entertainment, no. Pangalawa, the notion of fan engagement has become very interesting in recent years because of social media, no, and we're interested in how fans are utilizing these platforms aside from expressing their adoration or support sa kanilang paboritong celebrities, no. At ang pinakahuli, yung notion kasi that when we talk about disinformation, of course, it is a priority. But the fact that it is dying because of social media narrative is a bit depressing and disempowering sometimes, no. And so we'd like to look at alternative models for addressing disinformation and encouraging public participation, no. And fandom movements, they provide a stark contrast, no, to the usual social movement that we have, no. And I think this was shown to us, no, in several instances that actually led to the study, no. And these instances includes when Katniel fans were able to band together to shut down disinformation channels, no, for a time, and then the growing influence of the armies or the fans of BTS worldwide, no, that made us look at fandom as a political act. So, yung aming study ay this is the data that it covers, no, where we've used the following keywords and hashtags that you see on the screen. So mamaya explain namin ba't yung mga hashtags na yan ang nakikita ninyo. Then we also looked at a lot of memes, no, kasi dalawang layers yung aming analysis. And the memes that were created by the supporters of the top two presidential candidates, no, VP Leni Robredo and Bongbong Marcos, no. And the data collection happened during the following period, from October 2015 to 2016, which covers the 2016 vice presidential elections. And this was also the first time now that Tony Gonzaga's endorsement of Bongbong Marcos gained criticism, though not as harsh and prominent as it has become today. Then another is on May 2020, August to August 2020, which covers the ABS-CBN shutdown issue, which is an incident that's very critical for us now because it's an incident that mobilized the Kapamilya fans and really provided the imagery of how intertwined politics and entertainment are in the country. And lastly, from October 2021 to February 2022, because it covers the filing of candidacy for the 2022 presidential elections. So, bakit sila at bakit itong data nito at bakit ganito yung coverage? So from the beginning, it was clear to us that we will be looking at the cases of Tony Gonzaga and Karla Estrada, instead of the other celebrities who were very vocal about the ABS-CBN shutdown in the 2022 elections. Itong dalawang celebrities na ito, but more so Tony Gonzaga, they are very curious cases, no, because they became polarizing figures in the eyes of fans and netizens. Especially to those who are for and against Duterte, and then continuing to the time that they showed support for Bongbong Marcos and the unity. So these two are the examples of the thin line between politics and entertainment, no, in the Philippines, which is actually very cliche, no, parang obvious naman sa atin. But I think more than anything, because of social media, mas lumabas yung pagiging blurred nila, no. At lumabas din dito yung increasing power of fans when it comes to demanding accountability from the object of their affection. Okay, so how did we analyze the data? So it's pretty straightforward. So for the first part, we looked at the posts that had the most engagements in terms of likes, shares, and comments. We also looked at the prominent pages that drive these conversations, and then looked at the emerging themes in terms of captions and framing. For the second part, so as we said, we looked at selected memes, no, and how these two represented a kind of a unifying themes, no, on how the supporters seem to engage themselves politically. So yun yung tiningnan namin. At pinakahuli, we consolidated this insights from parts 1 and 2, and then talked about why fandom is actually in a good position to contribute to the fight against online disinformation and how it can spill over into citizen participation. Okay, now let's go to the first part of the study. No? The main question that guided the first part of this was how did the fans make use of social media in this politically charged climate? And then what happened to the celebrities who, in the eyes of the fans, should have done more in terms of certain issues and concerns? And we are going to start with Tony Gonzaga, no, and the case of the ABS-CBN shutdown. So medyo kahit matagal na, balikan natin konti, no? Last July 2020, the House of Representatives voted not to renew the franchise of ABS-CBN, which is the country's biggest media company, no, in what was seen as President Rodrigo Duterte's assault on press freedom. During this time, there were really a lot of celebrities who were applauded by Kapamilya fans, no, for taking a stand against the non-renewal of the franchise. No. But there were also a lot who were called out for staying silent. No. So the data shows that the celebrities who were called out included Sarah Geronimo, sisters Tony Gonzaga and Alex Gonzaga, and then Robin and Mariel Padilla, no, who were all contract stars or used to be contract stars of ABS-CBN. But in particular, it is Tony Gonzaga's silence that was singled out by a lot of Kapamilya fans. So remember, we're not just talking about fans of celebrities, but also fans of network, no, which we have a lot of in the Philippines. And it was probably because Tony Gonzaga was really a huge celebrity, no, in ABS-CBN. Another interesting thing, and will show you the details in a while, no, is that there is an increasing attention that's being given by the media, no, the media outlets in the on the voices of the fans and netizens and social media. So mas nagiging sila yung focus ng mga balita. No? So let us go through the findings one by one. Okay. So as we look at different Facebook pages, YouTube channels, and then Twitter posts, no, ito yung mga nakita namin. So the first time that the National Telecommunications Commission issued a cease and desist order against ABS-CBN on May 5, social media went abuzz as Kapamilya fans and celebrities condemned the NTC order. So in the official Facebook page of ABS-CBN News, for example, this curated post, which includes Tony Gonzaga's post, was able to garner a number of engagement, no? So around almost 8,000 like reactions, around less than 3,000 comments, no? Around 2,000 sad reactions, and a number of care reactions. No? So medyo nagkaroon na ng ingay dito. Pero ang naging focus ay yung mga celebrities na sumuporta. Okay. However, this positive framing of ABS-CBN on the support of their stars was trumped by an article from the Philippine Entertainment Portal that was shared on their FB page. No? And this is that article. From the time na nag-issue ng cease and desist order ang NTC up until the time na dininay ng House of Representatives yung franchise ng ABS, ito pa rin post na ito ang may pinakamaraming pinakamataas at pinakamaraming engagement, no. So kitang-kita naman dito sa kung nakikita niyo sa ating screen. So ito ang pinakamataas, no, at may kinalaman talaga siya sa kung paano na-view ang tatlong celebrity na ito, no, na nagpakita ng suporta sa ABS-CBN. And then an interesting thing, however, is that entertainment news did not stay in the realm of entertainment, but they were also shared in a number of Facebook pages that was associated with President Duterte and other political figures, no, such as Manny Pacquiao, Sara Duterte, at mga iba pang Facebook pages, no, na may kinalaman sa politics. No? And I think meron tayong slide dito, Gerard. The next, okay, yeah. So, yeah, hindi na natiling celebrity news yung balita na ito, but rather it was also shared outside of entertainment pages, no? Which I think is also a manifestation of how Facebook pages of political figures they're not only preoccupied with celebrity news, because remember na may connection kay President Duterte itong ABS-CBN closure, no? And it was during the time of President Duterte where social media became highly polarized, no? At yun nga, kaya lumabas yung term na dilawan, tapos DDS, no? And actually, when you scroll through the comments, especially on pages associated with Duterte, you can see that the supporters were very angry towards Tony Gonzaga for speaking up, no, on the issue. Kasi supporter nga siya dati ni Duterte, no. Pero pag pumunta ka sa celebrity pages, nagagalit naman yung mga comments, nagagalit din kay Tony Gonzaga kasi parang feeling nila she did not do enough, no, or she did not lend her voice enough, no. So curious case yung positioning kay Tony Gonzaga, no. On the one hand, nagagalit sa kanya yung mga pro Duterte for speaking out, no, during the time that NTC did not issue during the time when NTC issued a cease and desist order, pero at the same time nagagalit naman sa kanya yung mga pamilya fans because she did not do enough, no. So gano'n. But I think another important thing about in all of these Facebook posts is that the framing and the caption have also highlighted the important role that Kapamilya fans played, no, as they have become the source of criticism. No? So sila ang nag-call out in short sa mga artista na ito. So nung dumating yung July and when the House of Representatives finally voted not to renew the franchise, of course the announcement was met with anger and protest, not only from employees and staff of ABS-CBN, from journalists and press freedom advocates, but also, more importantly, from the Kapamilya fans, no? With the hashtag no to ABS-CBN shutdown, gaining 181,000 engagement on Facebook alone. So it has really become a trending topic, no, in July. So, nung finally hindi na nabigyan ng prangkisa ang ABS, yung framing ng fans ay nanatili, no? Yung framing na yung fans ang nagko-call out sa mga celebrities na ito has once again resurfaced, no? This YouTube video has been shared by a number of the Facebook pages, no, both against celebrity and politically inclined pages. And this video contains various screenshots of tweets that shows the anger and frustration of the Kapamilya fans. Hindi lamang kay Sara Geronimo, no, but more importantly kay Tony Gonzaga, no. Which I think yun yung dahilan bakit nag-release ng statement din si Tony Gonzaga, sympathetic to the 11,000 employees of ABS-CBN. No? So afterwards, nag-release niya ang statement na ito, na again, shinare sa various media outlets, no? But sa lahat ng Facebook pages na yon, ang may pinakamataas na engagement ay galing sa page na ito, yung Kapamilya Online World, no? Which is an unofficial community of Kapamilya fans, no? So pinakamarami yan with around 30,000 likes, no? At napakadaming love reactions at napakarami rin comments, around almost 3,000 comments. So very interesting yung dynamics na yan, no, pagdating kay Tony Gonzaga. Siya yung medyo mas na-single out sa issue ng ABS-CBN. Now let's turn to another celebrity, or let's turn to how this same issue has framed the struggle between Karla Estrada naman and the Katniel fans. Um, well, in a way, to a lesser extent, no, Karla Estrada's entanglement in both politics and entertainment and her brush off with fans is actually similar to Tony Gonzaga's story. By being the mother of Daniel Padilla, who is the other half of Katniel, no? Syempre kilala natin si Catherine Bernardo, no? And they are the most popular love team in the Philippines today. Um, Karla Estrada found herself at the center of criticism. No, she incurred the anger of Katniel because of the ABS-CBN shutdown issue and her support for the unity. No. But unlike Tony Gonzaga, whose main criticism was about her silence or not doing enough, Karla Estrada was largely criticized for allying herself with the Tingogs, Sinirangan party list, whose representative, Yeda Romualdez, voted against the franchise renewal. No? So it was a betrayal um, on for the Katniel fans. They felt betrayed, no, about what Karla Estrada did, especially since Catherine Bernardo and Daniel Padilla are homegrown talents of ABS-CBN. So, in terms of the timeline of the criticism against Karla Estrada, so hindi siya nagsimula ng 2016, no? Nagsimula siya nung na-announce na siya ay party list candidate, no? Noong October. So, in fact, the Withdraw Karla Estrada hashtag became a trending topic in Twitter after the announcement, no? Saka itong Katniel gifing, ayan. So, this criticism became more prominent when the campaign period began in February 2022, no? At makikita natin paano siya nag-escalate, no, into a divide between certain segments of Katniel fandom. Okay. So this one is the Facebook post that has the highest engagement, no? Highest in terms of having 65,000 plus likes, no? Tapos sobrang dami niyang comments, around 10,000 comments almost. If you notice, the caption actually referenced the similar fate of Karla Estrada and Tony Gonzaga, no? And the role played by the netizens who criticized them. So again, nagiging subject na rin of news coverage ang mga netizens, no, at mga fans. So other Facebook posts, katulad nito sa Manila Bulletin at Abante na matataas din ang engagement, they also echoed the same framing, including how Tony Gonzaga and Karla Estrada chose to ally themselves with the unity. No? So there's that really intense criticism. And then scrolling through the Twitter and Facebook posts, the assertiveness of Katniels on this issue has more to do with their concern on how this can tarnish the reputation of Daniel Padilla, no, more than Karla Estrada herself. No? And I think mas directed yung criticism kay Tony because she is a bigger star. But yung kay Karla Estrada, mas worried sila sa reputation ni Daniel Padilla, yung mga fans. No? Yan. And then generally, na-share ng yung issue na to or yung coverage nito, mas marami siyang na-share from media outlets rather than Facebook pages of politicians or celebrity, no, mga yung ganon. So mas nag-circulate siya sa news. Yeah. So ito yung sinasabi ko na nag-escalate siya to the point where certain segment of the Katniel fandom actually circulated this online letter, no, this open letter addressed to Catherine Bernardo and Daniel Padilla to actually make a stand, no, because hindi nila nagustuhan yung ginawa ni Karla Estrada na nagagamit yung fandom nila to campaign, no, for things that they're not their values doesn't align with, no. So very interesting ito kasi nakikita natin dito, kaya nga ang nakalagay dyan, the passion of Katniels, no. So kita-kita natin dito how intense the criticism was, no, that it literally parang divided the Katniel fandom into those who are saying that they should speak up, and then to the another segment that's saying na um, we should respect the stand of the mother and the son. So very interesting yung ganitong klaseng movements or galaw na nagpe-play out sa social media. So yun, so aside from what I have mentioned, what does this data reveal about the conversation that's happening online? In specific cases, we can see how fans played an important role in driving conversations and criticizing celebrities on particular issues. And that this power is now getting recognized by journalists themselves now and even media outlets, as the framing of their stories emphasize that it was the fans who are calling out or criticizing these celebrities. So nagiging balita na din yung movement ng fans. No? This is an indicator, at least for us, that the fans are beginning to see their favorite idols or celebrities as more than entertainment figures, but that they are an integral part or an important part of the country's political landscape. Previously, this kind of criticism, as someone who've been doing a number of research on fandom, these kind of criticisms were largely ignored before, but I think in the age of social media, where instant feedback is the norm, these criticisms and call outs can really have consequences for the celebrities, So for example, in the case of Tony Gonzaga, who resigned as host of Pinoy Big Brother, I think she was forced to resign as host of Pinoy Big Brother right after she declared her support for the Uni team, and that there is also an online petition going around the fans of Magandang Buhay that Regine Velasquez permanently replaced Karla Estrada even after the elections. So there is a kind also of a consequence to these celebrities whose values do not align with the fans. So on this part, we can see that the fans of the celebrities becoming more engaged in a more obvious political act. So hindi na lang sila nananatili bilang taga-suporta ng celebrities, but like lumalabas na rin sila doon sa bubble na yon. But what happens now when supporters of public figures and officials behave like fans themselves, and the public officials become like celebrities, So what are the implications of this in our public and political life? So I am now going to turn the floor over to my partner, Gerard, for this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am B. Maraming salamat po for being a thorough rundown sa part 1. Ako naman po yung magbibigay ng rundown para po sa parts 2 and 3. So, before I begin, let me begin by trying to explain a bit of the context of why we wrote this part in this particular way. I think there's a running joke that Filipinos have more scrutiny for the next Miss Philippines as opposed to the president. Bakit ang galing-galing daw natin pag pinupunan natin yung Q&A ni Pia or ni ng Miss Philippines, for example, kumpara kung pinupunan natin yung ating mga presidente. Bakit pagdating sa election, parang nawawala yung isip natin, as emphasized dito sa meme na to. Looking at another meme, when people bring up this topic, they also emphasize how some, typically the smart professions, are better than others. Sa itong post, makikita natin yung first senador, hina-highlight nila na yung dating mga senador, puro mga abogado, mga journalists, agriculturalists, doctor, or businessmen, kumpara sa ngayon na parang kasama ng mga criminals, plunderers, saka smugglers, nandun din yung mga athletes, yung mga action star, yung secretary ni tatay. So ano nga ba ang nangyayari? Nauuto lang ba ang mga masa, kuno, ng mga kung sino mang action star or plunderer? I think hindi po kayo magugulat if I say marami magsasabing yes sa mga tanong na iyon. As a result of a lot of fear and anxiety that people usually bring to political discussion, they are really quick to assume the worst, not just of politicians, kurakot silang lahat, kunyari, or celebrities, na usually sinasabi mga walang alam yung mga yan, but also of their fellow citizens. For example, yung mga LBM supporters daw, hanggang basta na lang yung kaya nila sabihin when asked kung ano yung bakit nila iboboto si BBM for a president. On the other hand, puro batikos lang daw lumalabas sa mukha ng mga piglawan na parang sobrang militaristic raw tayo kung magpa-fact check raw tayo in our when we ask for ano mga credentials ni Bongbong Marcos. So there's a lot of negative perceptions, as we can see, going around online between fans. This election though, we realized na parang may naiba. Bakit sobrang daming gustong makilahok ngayon? Not just celebrities but also their fans. Bakit hindi din ang daming bakit ngayon parang ang daming openly political in this particular election campaign period? Bakit kung umuulan man, or kunyari may pandemya pa, di ba? Bakit kahit despite these factors, ang dami pa rin gustong makilahok in Philippine politics today? Kung kukumpara natin yung sitwasyon ngayon sa sitwasyon nagsasabing madubli lang yung politika, sa kapaluutulang yung mga masa, parang may disconnect. So, in trying to come to a better understanding, this article focuses on the supporters themselves to try and provide a different take on the type of political participation we have in this country and to provide a more nuanced understanding on how this information can affect citizens. So, pakita ko lang po yung how we got to this idea in the first place. The way we did it was not only did we look at current events and give our takes about them, but we decided to see how current events compared to the 2016 elections and the Duterte administration itself, as summarized in this chart right here. Now, alam ko maliit siya right now, pero basically, we can divide this timeline into 3 parts. So, ito siya, 1, 2, 3. The 3 parts are yung sitwasyon dati or yung bago nagka-COVID, yung COVID response, saka yung ABS shutdown as discussed by Ma'am B earlier, saka yung parang current situation na napansin namin ngayon where parang mas marami yung citizen participation. Okay? Using the data set we mentioned in part 1, we compared celebrity treatment and political participation to citizen political practices now. Ang argument po namin ay dahil partly because of the COVID response and ABS-CBN shutdown and partly because of the way the administration acted prior to COVID with policies such as the war on drugs, the regular employment of social media trolls, political participation today is in online spaces can be divided into 2 dominant trends. For one trend, we see that it resembles what we saw before when people were supporting for President Duterte. For the other trend naman, we see it as a reaction to the people who were tired of promises not being kept and so decided to seek and create solutions for themselves. In the following sections, paliwanag ko lang po in more detail some of the key points ng aming article sa part na to. Okay, so we highlighted 3 events. The 3 events are yung shutdown nga ng ABS, yung COVID response, saka community pantries as possible and important drivers to explain why citizens participate online in the way that they do now. Okay. So, pakita lang po ako ng mga examples in detail para lang mas malinaw. The Philippines is known to have a military response to the pandemic with soldiers being defended by the administration as the backbone of the response. So, ito po yung example na sinabi ni dating spokesperson Harry Roque. All in all, I think we deserve a very good grade. I would give it a 85%, sabi niya. Despite giving themselves a pat on the back for instituting the world's longest community lockdown, the Philippines has been consistently at the bottom when judged on its pandemic response. So ito pong chart, nakuha ko po sa Business World, and yung naka-highlight po na Philippines sa baba shows that we are the bottom 20 country in terms of economic score in relation to COVID-19. Not only were hospitals constantly full, tapos mahaba pa yung pila, pinapasuot ka ng face mask, kahit hindi pa sure kung ano ba talaga effect ng face mask. People were also forced to be at their homes. Kaya po tayo naka-Zoom ngayon kasi nga po, in part, we are still under lockdown kasi ito po yung response ng ating gobyerno. And parang there was this big sense na parang hindi alam ano yung mangyayari susunod because the directives dati talaga were very unclear. Hindi mo alam ano mangyayari. Wala pang GCQ, ECQ, MICQ. Wala pang alert levels. And it was very stressful during that time. To add salt to the wounds, while people were left to discarte, allies of the administration were also getting preferential treatment while taking the stance that the country was like this because kulang sa disiplina. So ito po yung party ni Sinyas noong December, nung parang medyo at high pa yung mga cases. Ito naman po si Coco Pimentel, no, naalala po natin na nag-cut siya ng line doon sa ospital. Tapos ito po na naman ang ating friend si Harry Roque na sinabi, dapat po tayong mahiya dahil pinapakita natin na wala tayong disiplina nung tumataas yung mga COVID cases. People were eventually so fed up kasi biruin mo, stress ka na nga sa bahay, hindi mo alam ano nangyayari, tapos sinasabihan kasalanan mo pa. That people took to social media in order to fight back and call back and clap back sa government. It was so, parang strong enough na eventually there were very strong and active calls from fans and citizens alike in order to get Health Secretary Francisco Duque III to resign. Ngayon, syempre, hindi naman po hopeless lahat ng situation. There were instances when citizens themselves took the matter into their own hands. In response to several people lacking basic goods and services, citizens started putting up community pantries to try and help their fellow citizens. So ito po si Ana Patricia Non, the first person to put up a community pantry. Although people were feeling good na mayroon pa ding bayanihan spirit na nagaganap, this also emphasized how lacking the COVID-19 response really was. According to Ana Patricia Non, I'm tired of complaining. I'm tired of inaction. And that was the reason why daw she decided to set up the community pantry. The fact that this has gone viral, according to her, it means it's a gut issue na hindi lang siya nakakaramdam nito, but a lot of people were also feeling the same. It also really didn't help that some government officials were compelled to label these acts as sites for supposed terrorist activities. And citizens didn't appreciate this. Ito yung mga responses nila. Basahin ko lang po. Parang hindi apektado mga pamilya nitong mga sunod-sunuran sa ano. Bakit may red tagging naganap sa community pantry? Hindi kayo nakakatulong. Saka the second one, this government does not want people helping each other. To hide their incompetence, they resort to red tagging. Galit sa community pantry pero hindi galit sa Communist Party na nasa West Philippine Sea. Hashtag pulisang terorista. They also use social media as a way to voice back against the government for telling them not to do this, to the point that the police had to officially apologize for doing so in the first place. So ito po yung mga headlines at the time in 2021. Parang the PNP really had to backtrack and backpedal na ay mali yung ginawa nila. So we can see here from this example that not only were fans taking the matters into their own hands, the fact that they were being effective at voicing back to politicians really emphasizes nga their power in this particular time. Okay, so lastly, alam ko na pag-usapan na po ni Ma'am B, pero padaanan ko lang konti para dire-diretso. Lastly, the ABS-CBN franchise wasn't renewed kahit na wala namang violation, according to several government agencies during the congressional hearing. Not only did this leave over 11,000 people out of work at a time when massive unemployment was a problem, it also prevented the network with the largest coverage from broadcasting, with reports of places not hearing about storms because walang nagbabalita kasi ABS-CBN had only stations to reach those particular areas. This forced celebrities to not only be visibly active on these political issues affecting them, this also encouraged their fans to speak out as well. So, as katulad na nga po na nasabi, talaga na-activate po yung fan participation because there were several issues during this pandemic time that you can't turn a blind eye anymore to the problem. When dati, people could still say, ay, ayoko makilahok sa politika kasi medyo madumi yan, parang hindi naman ako apektado. Now that with these several issues happening all at once, parang mas mahirap na siyang sabihin na parang magiging apolitical na lang ako. And more people were encouraged to actually speak up and participate in this election period at least. Now, all that said, that is why we identified two distinct ways of support, which generally applies to supporters based on the candidates they were supporting. So, for Unity, most of them seem to subscribe to the idea of following the leader. a way of participating closely resembling how people supported the Duterte administration. On the other hand, Lenny Kiko supporters seem to work on the idea of listen and empower, an idea which seems to come from people tired of being disappointed by trapo politics. Let me show some evidence now on why we came to think this way. So, unahin ko po Unity first, tapos Lenny Kiko pagkatapos. BBM and Sarah are portrayed as the king and queen, respectively, by their supporters and their celebrity endorsers. As we can see po in this particular image na I think popular sa kanila, here we have the king of the north, the tigre of the north, si BBM, saka the eagle of the south or the queen of the south na si Sara Duterte. As kings and queens, they are often celebrated as larger-than-life figures following the legacy of their fathers and the rightful heirs to the throne. So, part of the support then for BBM and Sara, most Uniteam supporters would always say dahil gusto nila yung ginawa ng tatay nila. As the lyrics then ng kanilang campaign song Sure Win goes, sinimulan ng kanilang amay itutuloy ang mahusay na si Tatay Digong at Manong Makoy is always a part and parcel of how Uniteam people brand themselves and sell themselves to their supporters. Tapos, there's also this interesting idea na parang sometimes mas popular din yung mga tatay nila rather than them themselves. Na parang a vote for Uniteam is parang a vote to continue this particular legacy. Therefore, in keeping in line with the idea of having to be unique and larger than life, star power and accomplishments are usually the things that people bring up when they mention that they want to support Uniteam. So here we have the example, si Gadon with Tony Gonzaga, tapos talaga nakikita sila. Ito rin po yung mga posts. Tawag sa kanila, the beauty and the best. Cheers, Tony and Attorney Larry. Dapat lang isigaw dahil siya lang ang karapat-dapat na mamuno sa ating bansa, Pilipinas. God is watching from a distance. He knows better who will win. Saka, landslide winners na daw sila. Okay? Last na po. Hindi rin enough na parang dito lang sa Pilipinas, pero kino-compare rin sila to celebrities outside like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Mark Zuckerberg. Kasing galing daw nila si BBM, kahit kasi pare-pare silang college dropouts. Therefore, the idea also helps us understand why the messaging has been to protect Uniteam, na kailangan protektadohin natin sila kasi sila yung laging inaatake. It also helps us to understand why when people don't follow the leader, people will be attacked. So, pasensya na sa Rappler, binabasa ko lang po. Dapat dyan sa Rappler daw, dalhin sa West Philippine Sea para raw sa yung naval forces na yung magbahala sa kanila. According to the first post na naman sa taas, paulit-ulit at paikot-ikot na trying very hard ang ABS-CBN tungkol sa Oxford issue. This black propaganda does not work. BBM will rise as a star, sabi niya. Tapos mahaba na po yan. Hindi ko na pababasahin. On the other hand, iba na naman po yung nakikita natin with Lenny Kiko supporters which follow a listen and empower idea. The campaign, on the other hand, seems to be centered on the theme of leaders that can listen and empower their supporters to help themselves. And this is usually the way these leaders are presented. So, in this first image, we see leaders of the Lenny Kiko tandem with the leader of a samahan ng Guardia, SG Tony Mangni, to discuss possible policy options na ano pwedeng bibigay na tulong sa mga security guards. According po kay Mr. Mangi, natutuwa ako sa kanila kasi tinatanggap nila yung mga ganong opinion mula sa aming mga gwardiya lang. Second picture naman po, we see a dress down. Wala pong barong, wala pong polo-polo. Kiko, breaking bread with farmers as they discuss together mga ways on how to alleviate yung situation ng mga farmers. Yan. Celebrity endorsers also, hindi na nagpakita. Ayun, anyways. Celebrity endorsers messaging would also highlight the theme of Ambagan, calling back to the spirit of community pantries. Also, there are reports that celebrity will go down to local areas such as Palenques to try and garner more support for the vice president. The bottom photo is such example with Rica and Paula Peralejo going down to the Palenque to actually try to campaign for Lenny. Yung sa taas naman po, nakuha po namin dun sa video ni Piolo na he would always remind yung fans na kailangan lahat tayo makisama in being part of the solution. emphasizing being active supporters, have also taken on the role of participating as citizens into their own hands, offering what they can to help others in order to try and help one another as in this particular campaign period. So ito po, a known example is Lawyers for Lenny na nag-offer ng free online legal assistance to anyone that needs it, especially kung nahara sila online. Picture 2 naman po is a reference to the many free food na nabibigay usually sa mga rallies. Picture 3 naman po shows how to make yung mga hats na sinusuot rin sa rallies kung gusto mo magmukhang bulaklak. So, ang interesting thing about this is it's not just professionals like mga lawyers or mga doktor or mga engineer that pull their support for Lenny. Pero people are really trying to do what they can with what they have in order to try and be part of the particular movement in supporting Kiko and Lenny. Okay? Tapos, whenever they react or parang they have responses to other fans, it's also interesting to see na parang they also try to enact that listen and empower idea na kunyari na-aatake yung mga kakampings, for example, rather than kinikimkim nila. They try to talk about it together in order to find solutions with one another. Okay, so ito po yung isang example na parang nung inaatake po yung Reddit ng mga BBM trolls, nilalabas talaga nila lahat ng mga informasyon na yon. Tapos dun po sa baba ng comments, parang nag-uusap sila ano yung mga possible interventions na pwede nila gawin as fans in order to parang mitigate or try to engage them in a positive way whenever possible. So, to conclude, beauty pageants are occasions when communities get together to judge for themselves what the Philippines has to offer. Not only do we expect the best from contestants, we also expect that the people around us are more than capable of telling a good contestant from a bad one. And yet, when it comes to talk about people, when it comes to politics by contrast, it really is lacking. Na parang talagang ni-assume natin, walang alam yung mga tao. Tapos parang lagi lang silang inuuto. Di porket maraming entertainment sa ating political process ay hanggang doon na lang ang kaalaman ng mga tao or ibig sabihin wala silang pakialam sa proseso. In their own way, people do things in ways that make sense to them. Moreover, just because there is an abundance of disinformation doesn't mean that citizens themselves can't make sense or have their own stances on those pieces of disinformation. Na parang hindi lang naman sila tagatanggap ng information, parang they can also find ways to make sense of it based on their own beliefs and value systems. As we have tried to show, if we really want to find concrete solutions to disinformation, perhaps it's time to seriously rethink how we see our fellow citizens, the role of media in politics, and the actual effects of disinformation. We shouldn't settle for treating people like caricatures, katulad ng pinakita kong meme sa simula. That in itself is unhelpful disinformation that we need to let go, we think. If we can do that, that opens the door for solutions that don't target the institutional problem alone, but also allows us to approach the cultural problem na parang magkaibang mundo yung ating mga kababayan ngayon whenever we talk about politics. And maybe in that way, we can bridge the gap. So, I'll move on na po ako sa part 3. Alam ko matagal na po, so bibilisan ko na lang ng konti. Ito na po yung parang synthesis article namin to conclude yung mga thoughts and mga insights po namin with doing the whole article series. Although still exploratory, our study highlighted the blurred lines between entertainment and politics in the country. The closing of ABS-CBN played a pivotal role as it became the convergence point for both politics, the entertainment industry, and the fans. In addition, by detailing some of the ways in which citizens have used digital media for political purposes, especially ngayong 2022 election campaign, we've also shown that there is a greater need to rethink our views on disinformation and incorporate ways to involve more citizens in the fight against it. Most recent discussions on disinformation center on the various strategies employed by disinformation agents like yung mga trolls or mga spreaders of fake news and how this negatively impacts our politics, society, and democracy. However, the problem of disinformation is complex and encompassing. While fact-checking remains an important approach to combat this problem, fans have steadily found ways to become important allies in this fight. fans' involvement in political causes was largely enabled by the rise of communication technologies, which, according to Henry Jenkins, is a technology author, a researcher, became a vehicle for collective problem solving, public deliberation, and grassroots creativity. In other words, through fandoms, people have another way to engage in politics, not just as a moral obligation, pero something as of a joyful activity, partaking in it in a way that makes sense to them. In short, those social media platforms have systems and features that don't help democracies. Ayun nga, sometimes it could lead to echo chambering. Sometimes it could lead to filter bubbles. Hindi lang technology ang ating problema at hindi lang sila ang dapat nating antayin para sa mga solusyon. Politics affects all of us, but we should also push for ways to make it feel that way. Na hindi siya this abstract thing that only the rich and powerful do. If we can make politics more engaging and meaningful to the everyday, we can count on more people in the fight for transformative society. Whether sa tingin ninyo kailangan nating bumangon or kailangan nating umangat, I think we can all agree that we want and deserve a better Philippines. As we have shown, participating in fandoms could be the start of being more involved in a fun and meaningful way. So, wrap up ko na lang po doon. I feel that this is better served than if we just go to the Q&A directly. So, marami pong salamat for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. We'll head on to our Q&A portion. So guys, you can send your questions to into the Q&A box and or on in our comments thread. But we'll get it started. So you mentioned in your study, unity, follow the leader, and then yung Lenny, it's listen and empower. What are the distinct appeals for Filipinos?
First of all, tanong ka lang muna what you mean by Filipinos. Parang would you say na just regular citizens ba or pati yung abroad? Okay.
Yeah, just say regular citizens.
Sige.
Yeah.
So, I think iba yung appeal na parang there's a split value nga. Na parang I would not discredit the fact that there are some people that would really believe in Duterte politics. Yung parang kailangan natin na matigas na Pauno, for example, someone that can lead us in a way, especially during this time na parang maraming uncertainty, not only because of the pandemic, pero there's an issue with China, hindi mo alam kung ano magkano ng bigas, mataas yung presyo ng gasol. And I feel that there will be people that will find comfort in that. And that should be a valid thing that we should parang try to address and listen to them when concerned sila. On the other hand though, there are people that also see na marami na nga nangangako. Maraming nagbibigay na parang eto yung kailangan mo lang ako pakinggan tapos bibigyan ka namin ng mga solusyon, ng ayuda or whatever. Pero time and time again, the promises doesn't hold up. Parang hindi siya nagkakaroon ng anything. So, for people like this, for people that see na hindi nila nagagawa, there is this big appeal na kung kaya ko rin naman makipag-usap sa aking kapitbahay, makipag-usap ako sa mga kaibigan ko, I'd rather do that. Kasi bakit pa ako mag-aantay for someone that is so far removed from me when I can just ask my neighbor? And I think these different appeals are both exist within the country right now.
Okay, thank you. And sa dugtong doon, sa mga presidential candidates today, parang seems to be that Lenny's getting some of the biggest celebrity endorsements with the entertainers and artists too doing volunteer performances. Arguably, she has the most celebrity endorsements in this election cycle. Like, has this been seen before, and what are your insights on why this is so?
Sige. Siguro, I think what's different now, and I think this is really, and me and Gerald are talking about this now, like how intertwined politics and entertainment has become in our country today. But I think this time around, this is a game changer in a sense that celebrities are voluntarily doing the campaigning for the politicians or the public officials now. Kasi previously, at alam naman natin ito, they endorse for a fee. No? Kaya nga dati parang hindi naman masyadong usapin yung kung nag-a-align ng values ng artista at nung nung public officials, no? Kasi nga parang ang dating, because celebrities are in a way commodities, they are being paid to endorse brands, no? And sometimes politicians also do that, no? At alam na natin yan, nakita natin yan sa mga issue sa mga politiko dati, at alam natin kung ano yung going rate, no? But I think game changer siya ngayon kasi especially pagdating sa kampo ni Lenny, no? Celebrities are voluntarily offering their services. At dahil ginagawa nila yon, yung values nila dumidikit na doon sa public officials na kanilang ini-endorse. No? So ngayon nagiging ano na sila, ang maganda na nga siyang tingnan kasi ang mga celebrities ngayon hindi na siya parang celebrity lang, sila na ngayon ay public at sila na ngayon ay citizen kasi nakikiisa na sila at may boses na sila, no? So this is something that I think is very different from previous campaigns, no? Yeah. So sige, Gerard, you have other insights on that?
May dagdag ako kasi when doing this research, there was this person ng Twitter na parang he uploaded a list of celebrity endorsers for the campaign of 2018. Pero no one was actually putting a lot of engagement to it. Parang kumpleto yung listahan niya, pero halos walang may pakialam. Parang I think another big changer for this election cycle is parang now it's front and center na parang it has become so important to know how your values stand. Kasi parang as sinabi na nga ni Ma'am B, parang hindi enough to see your star power. It's also enough to see saan ka ba naka-align? Where are your stances? How do you feel about it? And ayun lang naman yung dagdag ko. Na parang it has happened before. Parang I think obvious then when we count the number of celebrity officials that we have. Like si Richard, di ba? Parang hindi naman siya hidden news or anything. Pero people care more about it now kasi they really want, I think, something to change.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just a very short addition to that, no? Because I just also recently read on Twitter that, for example, at kung kino-question pa rin natin kung merong hatak ang artista, I've read on Twitter that after Kim Chu's appearance in Cebu, as for example, pumitik yung needle talaga towards Lenny after that, no? So meron talagang internal data about it. So ayun, kita natin, no, na dito sa Pinas ang laki ng maitutulong ng celebrities isang campaign. Pero alam din ng tao kung bayad yung celebrity at hindi. So I think they have that kind of intuition that make them feel that, well, this celebrity is authentic and is sincere in the support, no, rather than like just being paid to endorse someone, you know.
Okay. So connected to that, gaano na nga ka-importante itong mga malalaking boses ng mga artista, mga entertainers, lalo na sa panahon ng disinformation ngayon. Meron ba siya talagang balancing effect laban sa yung mga tinatawag natin micro-influencers sa Twitter, sa Facebook, sa social media? Gaano kabigat yung nabibigay nito na pag naging politically vocal sila?
Sige, Gerard, ikaw naman. Mauna ka this time.
I would say na celebrities can provide, or saka fandoms din in general, parang celebrities and fandoms can provide a good starting avenue to have people look at things more closely. Pero mas pinaka-importante pa din talaga that more citizens are empowered. Kasi parang if we say that celebrities can bring people to the issue, mas importante talaga that the people stick to those issues. And when you say that there can be a balancing effect, I agree na parang they already have the capital to say na, uy, makinig kayo sa amin kasi parang sikat ako, I already have the numbers. Pero it's still up to the people talaga. We should never forget that they should be the ones to be empowered to make the decisions for themselves. Kasi ultimately, parang no matter how many celebrities you have, if you don't have the people to vote for you dito sa bansa, hindi rin matutuloy. So kailangan talagang all three of them, I feel, should be in the picture when we discuss how do we balance the amount of disinformation and the amount of truth that can be swayed through star power and through fandoms.
On my end, no, dadagdagan ko yung sinabi ni Gerard. I think ito kasi yung time na nag-create tayo ng espasyo para yung mga artista at mga celebrities ay makapag-vocalize ng kanilang sariling stand, no? Kasi for the longest time, pag inaral mo ang celebrity ang celebrity complex or in the entertainment complex sa Pilipinas or yung star system, no? Celebrities are being prohibited. I mean, whether that's something that's an unspoken rule or something na naiintindihan o parang hindi kayo magsasalita or pwedeng sinasabi siya na huwag kayo magsalita, no? Kasi that will be a suicide, no? Parang it's like a career suicide kapag ka naging vocal ka publicly, no, ng inyong stand, no. And there are only a few celebrities who can do that previously, no. Like one example of that is Angel Oxino, who has remained very vocal from the start up until this time, no. But I think importante yung na-create na espasyo ng kasalukuyang panahon na kung saan yung mga fans mismo nare-realize na nila na hindi ata pwedeng tahimik lamang yung mga paborito naming artista sa mga bagay na nakakaapekto directly sa amin bilang tao, no, at hindi lang bilang fans, no. So I think that kind of context gave the celebrities a platform to speak or to talk about what they feel is right for them, what are the values that they espouse. Because as you can see, there are a number of celebrities who previously were not very vocal, but have started to become vocal now, no? Precisely because people in Twitter, for example, are looking for them. No? Talagang tinatag nila yung mga artista na, oy, sino susuportahan ninyo, lumabas na kayo kasi ganito, ganyan. No? So nagkaroon ng ganoong spasyo. I mean, I think for all of the negative things that we can say about technology, there is at least that positive aspect to it. You know, that fans have become more closer to the celebrities and are able to directly call them out, no? If hindi nga aligned sila, no? Or like hindi nga sila nagsasalita. Which I think, kaya babalikan ko lang yung tanong mo on micro-influencer nga because I think magandang tanong yon. I think kaya for the longest time, it's the micro-influencers who have held sway, no, pagdating sa social media at pati in some ways, no, a number of them have contributed to disinformation, no. Precisely because for the longest time, hindi nagsasalita yung mga malalaking celebrities because they chose to remain silent, no. Kaya mas nauna talaga yung mga micro-influencers na magdikta tungkol sa kung anong nangyayari sa atin or like maging instrument ng disinformation on the other, no. Pero right now, I think dahil sa kampanyang ito, bumabawi na yung mga celebrities, no, at nakikiisa na rin sila doon despite, you know, being bashed or being given warnings, I'm pretty sure by their managers on why they are speaking up, no. So I think very crucial tong time na ito kung anong klaseng practices ang gagawin ng mga celebrities natin moving forward or if they would choose to be silent or will speak, parang ganun.
Yung pagiging silent, parang it's also a political stance for some or an escape. So, di ba? Ayun. It's now become kind of a social responsibility for these celebrities. Kasi kitang-kita ko gaano kalaki influence na sa information ecosystem. Okay, I think we can do one last question. Ang isa sa nagiging depensa ng mga iba, parang yung pagiging vocal, yung pagko-call out mo sa isang artista, nagiging cancel culture daw. Or yung isa pang depensa is, mahal ka pa rin namin, fan pa din kami kahit na magkaiba tayo ng sinusuportahan. Ano yung insights nyo sa mga depensang ganito?
Okay. Sige, kayo na po mahuli. Basically,
baka po kung may final statements kayo, pasok na din natin.
Ang interesting po sa nangyayari ngayon na nakita ko, parang fans themselves have actually tried to point out there's a difference between showing and trying to show what's true versus what actual bashing is. Kasi sila mismo yung nagko-call out na parang iba yung sinusubukan naming ipakita sa iyo to stand by the particular truths na meron. Like we stand by Supreme Court decisions. We stand by mga sinabi ng mga foreign and local lawyers. Versus, sasabihin mo lang, ay, nang babash ka lang or parang ganon. Na parang under the scrutiny of truth naman. And I think this is something na important, especially when we're common ngayon yung phrase na post-truth. We live in the post-truth era. Na parang the fans themselves and citizens themselves show na importante pa rin talaga yung truth sa kanila. That there are things that they feel should be protected, something that should be still constant, mga values, whatever those are. And these are the things that they want to fight for. And these are the things that are true to them and very real to them. So parang, I feel that those defenses, whenever you say na parang, ay, parang fans pa rin ako, ganyan, or parang sasabihin nila na hindi na kita fan, ganon. Parang they can only be as effective depending on how strong our values will remain. And I feel moving forward, if we can keep focusing on having a built sense of parang ano yung mga values that we stand for as Filipinos, and then that can help us move in the right direction towards maybe having more participatory saka mas peaceful na politics. So, ito. And I thank you.
Dagdag doon din sa sinabi ni Gerard, no? Doon siguro sa notion ng call out culture, no, na na nagiging cancel culture. I think siguro kasi, no, ito rin yung medyo hindi naman to dahil lang sa social media, no, but I guess naging platform kasing social media to have all of this parang very polarizing views, no. But I think minsan nakakalimutan nga natin na may mga nuances. So importante talagang hindi ko alam paano ituturo yung nuance, no? Pwedeng sa eskwelahan, pwedeng sa bahay, I don't know. But I think pagdating doon sa notion ng cancel culture, and as with all things, no, pwede mo siyang gamitin into positive or negative, no? Pero alam ko ngayon parang malakas yung call na dapat wala ng cancel culture, eliminate natin yung cancel culture. Pero actually kasi pagbabalikan mo yung history niyan, ang cancel culture kasi nagsimula talaga siya bilang isang tool ng mga marginalized voices na sa internet, no? Ano yung ibig kong sabihin? Nagsimula siya, for example, sa mga naging survivors ng abuse because they have no other outlet to for example call out their abuser. They have no other ways because institutionally it's very hard for a woman to be abused because nasa iyo lahat yung burden of, di ba, na parang ikaw na ngayon na biktima, ikaw pa yung kailangan magpatuloy na biktima ka, diba? So yung ganong klaseng marginalization, nakahanap sila ng boses to call out the perpetrators online, no? So na ang naging parang culmination niyan yung Me Too movement, 'di ba? Na hindi man na-idemanda pero na-blurt out siya sa public, no. At syempre ibang usapin kung totoo 'yon or hindi, no. Pero if you are working for, let's say, survivor groups, ang iisipin mo talaga ay you side with the victim muna, no, and then let the perpetrator depend, no, kung totoo yun or hindi. Yeah. So, importante siya for some people, no, the notion of calling out someone online. So, I think baka importante rin na magkaroon ng nuanced view toward what we mean by cancel culture. Baka kasi may mga inaalisan din tayo ng boses dahil ayaw na natin nun. Pero let's also admit na nagagamit din naman talaga ng cancel culture towards something that's very damaging, no? Yun. So, that's my idea of cancel culture. Pagdating naman dun sa notion na kung magkasalungat tayo ng view, at ikaw yung idol ko at magkasalungat tayo ng view, para susuportahan pa rin kita. Actually, ano na siya hindi ko, at least for the people who are very vocal online and dun sa mga nababasa namin sa mga fan groups, fan pages, no? Parang kung ikaw ay isang fan, parang very unconscionable sa'yo, lalo na kung ikaw ay fan na na merong alam sa buhay politika sa Pinas, very unconscionable sa iyo na kapag hindi na tayo nag-align, hindi na pag hindi align yung values ko sa values mo, then nababawasan yung pagiging mythical nung idol mo. So that's one thing, no? That's very important. But I think there are really fans who may not care too much about the politics in the country who are okay with that, no? Kasi babalikan ko na lang yung Katniel na example. Nung nahati yung fandom, no, nung kay Karla Estrada, I think yung mga talagang very vocal about it are the people who would usually volunteer when there's donation drive, when there's call for help, or are very vocal online pagdating sa politics, no? And I think the other half of that fandom is really just happy with Katniel, no? And they pretty much don't parang look at the bigger things outside of that, no? And so the notion of like respecting the boundaries is there, no? So it's the same justification used by Karla Estrada when she said na well, sa pamilya na magkakaiba kami ng fan pero nagrerespetuhan kami, which I think in a way valid din naman siya, di ba? Yon. So I think nakadepende siya sa kung anong klaseng fan ka, no? Yung kung ikaw ay may alam sa labas na nangyayari or kung very limited yung iyong involvement outside of the politics. At hindi ko sinasabing masama naman yon kasi I mean, generally, sabi nga, ang katulad ng sinasabi namin sa article, no, may iba-ibang level ng involvement. But the most important thing is how do we involve people to help us fight certain things, no? Maybe they will be active on other causes but not active on the others. But that's fine, no? As long as they find some parang ways to connect to things that they care about. Parang gano'n.
Okay. So thank you very much, Professor Iris and
Thank
Gerard.
you.
Thank
This
you.
has been a very energetic discussion on showbiz and politics.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, for more details on Facts First, please check out factsfirst.ph. And we have tip lines for submission of posts containing dubious claims on Viber and Messenger. So the fact-checking layer of this initiative will verify these claims that you submit and publish reports debunking lies or misleading information. And our researchers, like Professor Iris and Jared, will sort through them also. For groups interested, they may reach out to #FactsFirst by sending an email to info@factsfirst.ph. And see you next week for our Facts First PH research briefing. Thank you and good morning.